Tyson paid her $10 million in the settlement. The breakup was public, ugly, and humiliating. But it wasn't the end of Tyson's battles with love. In 1997, he married Monica Turner, a medical student and sister-in-law of the Washington, D.C. mayor. She was calm, educated, steady, the opposite of Tyson. For a while, it worked. They had 2 children together. But behind the scenes, Tyson was still battling addiction, rage, and infidelity. In 2003, Turner filed for divorce. Her statement was simple: irreconcilable differences. But the truth was harsher. She said Tyson had cheated repeatedly, that he couldn't stay sober, couldn't stay stable. Another chapter burned. His darkest moment came in 2009. On May 26, the unthinkable happened. His 4-year-old daughter, Exodus, was playing on a treadmill at home when a cord wrapped around her neck. Tyson rushed to the hospital. He held her hand. She was placed on life support. Hours later, she died. Tyson described it as the worst pain a human can feel. The man who had knocked out giants collapsed to the floor, crying until his voice shattered. He disappeared from the world for months. He said later that if he hadn't found sobriety, he would have killed himself. The death of Exodus broke something inside him that never healed. But life didn't stop. Tyson remarried again, this time to Lakeha Kiki Spicer in 2009. She was determined, strong, and unafraid of his past. She pushed him to rehab, forced him into therapy, and helped him find a new identity beyond fists and fear. In interviews, Tyson said she saved his life. If it wasn't for her, he said, I'd be dead. For the first time, Tyson tried to live like a regular man. No ring, no belts, just peace. But peace was hard. Even in his late 40s and early 50s, Tyson's demons followed him. He admitted he still struggled with alcohol, drugs, and bursts of rage. In 2014, on live television, he cursed at a Canadian journalist and threatened him. In 2016, he got into a fight at an airport. In 2018, police were called to his home after a violent argument. Tyson tried to grow, but the world kept finding reasons to pull him back into chaos. By 2020, he reinvented himself again through Hotboxing with Mike Tyson became viral. Not because he was funny, but because he was honest. Brutally honest. He talked about depression, trauma, death, fame. He cried on camera. He admitted he still heard voices, still had nightmares, still hated the person he used to be. But then came 2024, and everything changed again. His sanctioned fight with Jake Paul was supposed to be a fun exhibition, a spectacle, but Tyson trained like it was war. He wanted to show the world he still mattered. He still had power, and he didn't till round 6, when his body finally betrayed him. Breathless, sluggish, slowing down. Jake Paul outboxed him, and Tyson lost by unanimous decision. Reporters said the loss didn't matter, that the legend would always live. But Tyson didn't see it that way. After the fight, Tyson spiraled again. He drank. He took too many painkillers. He pushed away friends. His wife said he would sit in the dark for hours, talking to himself. The pressure of being Mike Tyson never left. And then came the night in Las Vegas. Just weeks after the fight, Tyson was caught on hotel security cameras exploding at a man who confronted him. Witnesses said Tyson tried to walk away, but the man followed him, shouting insults. Tyson snapped. 1 punch. 2. Security jumped in. Police arrived, and for the first time in decades, Mike Tyson was handcuffed on camera. But what he said during his arrest was the real shock. Through tears, Tyson told officers, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm tired of being Mike Tyson. I'm tired of fighting the world. It wasn't anger. It wasn't violence. It was pain. Deep, bone-crushing pain from a lifetime of trauma he never escaped. Officers said the moment felt less like an arrest, and more like a breakdown. Doctors later said Tyson had suffered a severe panic attack combined with emotional collapse. A lifetime of suppressed trauma finally erupting. Fans thought prison had changed him. Fame had changed him. Time had softened him. But the truth was darker. The rage that built Mike Tyson never left him. It only slept. And that night in Las Vegas, it woke up. Today, Tyson is 58. He tries to live quietly. He gardens. He reads. He meditates. He raises pigeons again, the same creatures he loved as a child. He says they calm his mind. But behind the calm, behind the tattoos, behind the legend, is still the scared boy from Brownsville. The boy who was bullied, beaten, humiliated, and taught that violence was the only language the world understood. Mike Tyson became the most feared fighter in history. But the one fight he never won was the fight inside himself. The officers leaned in. The hallway was quiet. The air was thick. Tyson wasn't yelling anymore. He wasn't threatening anyone. He wasn't trying to run. He just looked. Lost. His breathing slowed. His hands shook. Sweat dripped down his face even though the hotel corridor was cold. The officers later said there was something deeply unsettling about his expression. Not anger, but fear. Mike, one cop said softly, what happened tonight? Tyson swallowed hard. His eyes darted around like someone was watching him. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, he came back. The officers exchanged a look. Who came back? Tyson didn't blink. He didn't move. He stared straight ahead like he was seeing something none of them could. The shadow, he said. The thing that's been following me since I was a kid. The cops weren't sure what he meant. They asked again, Mike, who is the shadow? Tyson finally looked at them, and the look in his eyes made both officers step back without thinking. It's the man I used to be, Tyson said, the one Coos tried to protect me from. Chapter, the ghost of Brown. Before the fame, before the belts, before the millions, Tyson was a terrified child in Brownsville, Brooklyn. He was mugged, beaten, bullied, humiliated, almost every day. He didn't talk much then, but he remembered every face, every punch. Every night he slept hungry. In interviews he rarely mentioned it, but during therapy sessions in the 2000s he began calling that part of himself the shadow. That shadow was the rage. The violence. The instinct to destroy. Before being destroyed, Coos D'Amato had spent years trying to cage that part of Mike. And for a long time, it worked, but on bad days, the shadow still showed up. The officers didn't know any of this. They only saw a man shaking like he was fighting invisible hands. What did the shadow tell you to do? One asked cautiously. Tyson wiped his face. To finish the fight, he whispered. The fight that never ended. Chapter, the trigger. The Jake Paul fight was a circus. Tyson trained hard, but the world treated it like a comedy show. A 58-year-old legend going up against a YouTuber. People joked. Memes went viral. Late night hosts laughed. But Tyson didn't laugh, because to him, a fight was never a game. And when the bell rang that night, something inside him cracked open. The shadow returned. The same instinct that ruled him at 20, at 25, at 30. The same instinct that had nearly destroyed his life. But instead of unleashing it in the ring, Tyson held it in. He suppressed it. He forced it down. He swallowed it whole. But demons don't disappear. They wait. Chapter, the breaking point. 2 weeks after the fight, Tyson was exhausted. Barely sleeping, barely eating, aching everywhere. On the night of the hotel incident, he had taken a mix of painkillers and sleep meds just trying to rest. When he walked out into the hallway, half awake and disoriented, he wasn't Mike Tyson the celebrity, it was Mike Tyson the survivor. The officers tried to ground him. Mike, you're safe. No one's after you. Tyson shook his head violently. You don't understand. He never goes away. What doesn't? My old life, Tyson said. Brownsville. The streets. The people I hurt. The people who hurt me. Every fight I fought was really with him. The officer asked. And tonight, Tyson said, his voice trembling. He tried to come back for good. Chapter, the turning point. Tyson rubbed his face with both hands and leaned against the wall. I can't go back there. He said, I worked too hard to leave that boy behind. One cop asked gently, which boy? Tyson's eyes watered. And for the first time that night, his voice cracked. The scared one, he said, the one who thought no one would ever love him. The officers didn't say anything. How could they? In front of them wasn't a monster, or a maniac, or a washed-up fighter. The interrogation room was cold. Too cold for a Las Vegas summer night. Tyson sat hunched forward, elbows on the metal table, hands shaking slightly. He wasn't violent now. He wasn't loud. He wasn't even angry. He just looked empty. The officer across from him had seen hundreds of arrests, but none like this. Tyson wasn't drunk. He wasn't high. His pupils were normal. But something was wrong, deeply wrong. His chest rose and fell like someone who had run a marathon he never trained for. The cop cleared his throat. Mr. Tyson, can you tell us what happened outside the hotel? Tyson rubbed his face with both hands, as if trying to wake himself from a nightmare he couldn't escape. I lost it, he whispered. The officer leaned in. Why? The man didn't threaten you. He didn't touch you. He was just talking. Tyson closed his eyes. For a long moment, he didn't speak. When he finally did, his voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. Because he called me a monster. The officer frowned. That's it. Tyson shook his head slowly. No, it's because I believed him. The room went silent. Tyson took a deep breath, hands trembling again. You know, all my life people called me a beast, a killer, a freak of nature. And I played that role because it made me money, made me famous, made me important. His eyes watered, but he didn't wipe them. He just stared at the table. But when someone says it now, at this age, it hits different. I ain't that 20-year-old crazy kid anymore. I got kids. I got a wife. I got grandkids. I'm trying. I'm really trying. His voice cracked, but he looked at me like I was still that animal who can't control himself. And for a second, I felt like he was right. The cop didn't know how to respond. Tyson wasn't making excuses, he was confessing something raw, something too human for the man who once struck fear into entire generations. Tyson leaned back in his chair, eyes unfocused. You ever spend your whole life trying to outrun who you used to be? He asked quietly. The officer didn't answer. He didn't have to. Tyson continued. I wake up every day thinking I'll mess up again. I wake up scared I'll explode, or relapse, or hurt somebody. And everything I built, everything I fixed, gone. He slapped his chest. That darkness is still inside me. It don't leave, it just sleeps. And tonight, it woke up. His hands moved to his head, fingers pressing hard into his temples. I ain't proud of what I did. I ain't angry at that man. I'm angry at myself. Because I proved the world right again. For the first time in a long time, Tyson wasn't the fighter. He was the broken boy who had learned to use violence as a shield. And now, at nearly 60 years old, that shield felt heavier than he could carry. The officer cleared his throat softly. Mike, is there something you haven't told anyone? Something that triggered this? Tyson swallowed hard. There was something. Something he had never admitted publicly. Something he told only one therapist. Years ago. He slowly raised his eyes until he was staring directly at the officer. There's a reason I lose control. A reason I snap. A reason I fight ghosts that ain't there. He hesitated, voice trembling. It's from when I was a kid. Before boxing. Something happened to me. Something I never talk about. The officer leaned forward. Tyson's lips quivered. It wasn't a street fight. He shook his head. It wasn't gangs. It wasn't bullying. A long pause. It was a person. He clenched his fist so tightly his knuckles turned white. And that person hurt me in ways I ain't never said out loud. His chest heaved. Tears finally rolled down his face. I've been running from that moment my entire life. Every punch, every fight, every win. It all comes from that pain. And when people push the wrong button, that memory comes back like it's happening. All over again. The officer sat frozen. Tyson wiped his tears with the back of his hand. I ain't a monster, he whispered. I'm a survivor who never healed. He looked up at the ceiling. Voice barely audible. And I'm tired. So damn tired. The cop exhaled slowly. Mike, what do you want to happen now? Tyson took a long, trembling breath. I want help. Real help, not rehab. Not PR. Not a documentary. I want to fix what's broken before it breaks me for good. He lowered his head, defeated but honest. Because if I don't, one day I'll hurt someone who don't deserve it. And that's the day Mike Tyson dies. Not the fighter, not the legend, but the man I'm trying to become. It was a broken human being who had spent 50 years wrestling a version of himself the world never saw. Finally, Tyson whispered, I'm tired. Man, I'm so tired of fighting ghosts. And then, Mike Tyson, Iron Mike, the most feared man on earth, collapsed. Chapter. The aftermath, they carried him to the ambulance. Fans found out hours later. The media twisted the story into a scandal. Tyson meltdown. Legend loses control. Mike needs lockdown, not a comeback. But none of them knew what the cops heard in that hallway. They didn't understand that Tyson wasn't losing his mind, he was losing the battle with his past. He spent 3 days in a private clinic. 2 therapists. A full medical team. His wife stayed by his side. His kids visited. He cried more in those 3 days than he had in decades. And for the first time in a long time, he admitted the truth. He wasn't afraid of getting older. He wasn't afraid of losing fights. He was afraid of becoming the man he used to be. He sat in the back of the police car, hands cuffed, breathing slow and heavy, not angry, not explosive, but hollow. Officers expected shouting, insults, maybe even a physical struggle. But Tyson just stared at the floor, like he was watching his past crawl out of the cracks in the pavement. The younger officer finally spoke. Mr. Tyson, what happened out there? Tyson lifted his head. His eyes were red, not from rage, from exhaustion. Do you ever feel, he said quietly, like you spent your whole life fighting things you can't even see? The officer didn't know how to respond. Tyson exhaled deeply, leaning back against the seat. All my life people told me I was dangerous. Iron Mike, the killer, the monster. I believed him, man. I thought if I wasn't fighting, I wasn't living. But now I don't even know what part of me is real anymore. The officers exchanged a look. This wasn't the man they expected, Tyson continued, voice cracking. When I was a kid, I used to hide in abandoned buildings at night. I slept on floors with rats. I didn't know what a home was. Then Cuss found me. He told me I was special, but even that felt wrong. Kuz wasn't just a trainer. He was like a father, and when he died, everything good in me died too. For a moment, the car was silent except for the radio static. I keep thinking, he said, one of these days, I'm gonna wake up and not be angry anymore. But I don't know how. I don't know how to stop. The older officer spoke gently. You've rebuilt a lot of your life, Mike. People change. Tyson shook his head. No, I didn't rebuild. I just covered the ruins with new paint. He looked at his hands, the same hands that made him champion. The same hands that destroyed relationships, careers, and sometimes even himself. You know what scared me today? He said. That moment in the hotel, I wasn't angry at them. I wasn't angry at security. I wasn't angry at Jake Paul or the fight or the cameras. I was angry at myself, and I didn't even know why. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. I felt something snap inside me, like a wire that's been stretched too tight for too long. The younger officer swallowed hard. You're dealing with a lot. You should talk to someone. Tyson smirked weakly. I've been talking my whole life. 2 therapists, 2 cameras, 2 crowds. The problem ain't talking. The problem is, I don't listen to myself. When they arrived at the station, the officers escorted him inside. No reporters yet, no flashing lights. Tyson walked slowly, each step like he was being pulled backward by memories. Inside the interrogation room, he sat down, rubbed his face, and whispered to himself, "I don't want to be this man anymore." The detective entered with a folder of reports. "Mr. Tyson, we just need to know what set you off." Tyson closed his eyes for a moment, then he said something that changed the entire tone of the investigation. Something that made the detective sit down across from him instead of standing over him. He said, "It wasn't the fans. It wasn't the noise. It wasn't the hotel dot. It was something I saw." The detective leaned in. "What did you see?" Tyson stared straight ahead, jaw tight. "A little girl," he said. "She looked just like Exodus." The room went still. He continued, voice trembling. "She was running, laughing, like she used to. And then she tripped. Just a little stumble. But my mind went somewhere else. Somewhere I've been trying to forget for years." His hands shook now. "I saw my baby again, on the floor, not breathing. And I couldn't save her then, and I couldn't save her now. That's when everything in me broke." He looked up, eyes wet. "That's why I lost control." The detective sat back, stunned. None of the reports mentioned this. None of the witnesses saw what Tyson saw. Because Tyson didn't see a moment outside the hotel, he saw a memory he never escaped. "I ain't crazy," Tyson whispered. "I'm grieving. I've been grieving for so long, I don't even know where it ends." The detective closed the folder. In that moment, Mike Tyson wasn't a legend. He wasn't a headline. He wasn't Iron Mike. He was a father who never healed. Outside the station, the first reporters were gathering. Cameras were being set up. Headlines were being drafted. Tyson arrested again. Public meltdown. Boxing icon out of control. None of them knew the truth, and Tyson, he wasn't ready for them to know it either. But what happened next, just hours later, would change everything.